there are these sort of online, yes, I think it is predominantly kind of more transgender communities who just seem to, where there really is a kind of disturbing normalization of really truly violent rhetoric.
We are almost approaching the 1 week point since Charlie Kirk was assassinated in cold blood on the campus of Utah Valley University. On Monday, the Washington Free Beacon's Aaron Sibarium, who's of course been on our show before, had an important scoop over in the Beacon, and I'll read the headline to you now. Exclusive: FBI investigating social media accounts that appeared to indicate foreknowledge of Kirk assassination. So we have gotten confirmation through media reports that the FBI is right now investigating whether the suspect, Tyler Robinson, acted alone, whether other people may have had foreknowledge, or whether, in addition to having foreknowledge, other people may have been part of a conspiracy, actively part of a conspiracy to commit this heinous assassination in broad daylight last Wednesday. Aaron's story is important because you may have seen pinging around the internet social media posts that really do ostensibly indicate foreknowledge. So one of which from an account called Mushy. I can't believe I just said that, on September 3rd. It'd be funny if someone like Charlie Kirk got shot on September 10th, LMAO. Another one, September 10th will be a very interesting day. That was from back in August. Let's see, one other one, we effing did it. That was right after the shooting. You guys, ... I have something big coming soon. Just be sure to check the news. You'll know it when you see it. Then was quote tweeted on September 10th, the day of the assassination, by the same user saying, well, that's that. And another chud bites the dust. One that said, Charlie Kirk is coming to my college tomorrow. This is from the 9th. I really hope someone evaporates him literally. Let's just say something big will happen tomorrow. There are more in Aaron's story, and apparently now part of this FBI investigation. But you can understand why the FBI, by the way, the director of the FBI, as most of you probably know, was a close friend of Charlie Kirk's, would be investigating whether or not these were indicative of a larger conspiracy. One of the accounts appears to have that posted that is behind one of these posts. This is from Aaron's account. Quote, several of the accounts appear to belong to transgender individuals, and at least one of them followed suspect Tyler Robinson's roommate, with whom Robinson was allegedly in a relationship on TikTok. So let's bring Aaron in. And as a reminder, of course, to hear the full version of this interview with Aaron Sibarium, make sure to head over to undercurrents.tv, where you get these full extended versions of our interviews. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, on YouTube, we're almost at 100,000 subscribers and excited to hit that mark. Thanks for being here. Now let's go ahead and bring on in Aaron Sibarium, staff writer at the Washington Free Beacon. Did you know that all chips and fries used to be cooked in beef tallow up until the 1990s, when big corporations decided to swap out the beef tallow for cheap and highly processed seed oils? Gross. Today's seed oils actually make up about 20% of the average American's daily calories, and studies link them to inflammation and metabolic health issues. So that is why Masa decided to do something about it. They created a tortilla chip with, get this, just 3 ingredients. You see them on the back of the bag when you buy the chips: corn, organic corn, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. They are so delicious. They aren't just better for you, they are crunchier, tastier, and sturdier than other chips. They do not break in your guac, and then you don't crash, bloat, or feel sluggish afterwards. The beef tallow even makes them more filling, so you feel satisfied instead of binging through a whole bag and still feeling hungry. I can personally attest to that. These chips are super, super good. Masa Chips is already loved by tens of thousands of customers and endorsed by leading health and nutrition experts. So if you're ready to give Masa a try, go to masachips.com/undercurrents and use code undercurrents for 25% off your first order. Great deal. That's masachips.com/undercurrents. Use code undercurrents for 25% off. Well, FBI Director Kash Patel is testifying on Tuesday in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee. It's already been very fiery, but Aaron Sibarium, who's a staff writer over at the Washington Free Beacon, on Monday published a report indicating that the FBI was investigating, as the Free Beacon headline puts it here, social media accounts that appeared to indicate foreknowledge of Kirk assassination. So, Aaron Sibarium, welcome back to the show. I'm eager to dive into all of this.
Thanks for having me.
So, basically, what you're reporting is that there is this handful of social media posts that have been pinging around the internet over the last several days, and now the FBI is investigating them. So it's not just that these handful of posts exist, it's that the FBI has now wrapped them into a formal investigation. Is that correct, Aaron?
Yeah, that's exactly right. The FBI received copies of these posts and is now in the process of investigating them. We obviously have no idea what that investigation is going to uncover, and I think it's important to stress that people say a lot of crazy things on the internet, and you're sort of prior probability that this was some kind of crazy conspiracy should be very low. And I don't think that the posts are gonna the posts on their own really don't make the case that there was some massive conspiracy, but some of them are pretty eerie and suggestive. And if nothing else, I think they do testify to the fact that there are these kind of online communities where fantasizing about violence and the murder of your political opponents is normalized. And those communities appear to be, the ones that the shooter, Tyler Robinson, was at least proximate to. And so I think if nothing else, the posts kind of illuminate the social media cesspool that seems to have a lot of radicalizing potential.
Yeah, and bring us into that world to the extent that we can dive into that world, because this is an important point. There does seem to be some overlap from these posts, as I understand based on the reporting, with, there's no perfect way to explain this, but LGBT, more probably trans, ideological, cultural spaces. Again, it's not easily described, but that there is, in some of these gamer circles deep in the bowels of Reddit and Discord, some of these conversations end up overlapping with that full LGBT spectrum ideology. Is that what we're seeing with some of these posts, Aaron?
Yeah, it looks like at least a few of the people who made these posts are part of these subcultures, based on their usernames, based on things they included in their bio. And we know that I think at least one of the accounts followed the shooter's reportedly transgender roommate and lover on TikTok. Now, again, that means it's still a couple of degrees of separation removed from the shooter himself, but it is sort of a striking coincidence. And it's very clear that there are these sort of online, yes, I think it is predominantly kind of more transgender communities who just seem to, where there really is a kind of disturbing normalization of really truly violent rhetoric.
Right. And also you described a couple of the posts as eerie, and I think that's absolutely correct. It sort of gives you chills to read some of them, and obviously sends our imagination spinning in a million different directions. But can you tell us a little bit more about why a couple of these in particular stand out as eerie, Aaron?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really because they're all made before the assassination, and some of them really do seem to strongly indicate that they are thinking about, like something big is going to happen tomorrow, right? It really does sound like they know specifics. Now, again, very easily could just be an artifact of the internet and social media, and people post all kinds of things. But, one of these posts, I think, a couple of them may end up not being as much of a smoking gun as we think right now. But a couple of them did reference the date of the shooting. Specifically, others were made the night before. And I mean, there's one in particular, there's like a TikTok video where this person says, it kind of films themselves, and there's like this creepy music overlaid, and it's like, something is going to happen tomorrow to Charlie Kirk. Like, I mean, it's referencing Charlie Kirk. They're not just saying something's going to happen. They all make it very clear that something is going to happen in relation to Charlie Kirk, right? His name is in all of these posts. And then, as we know, something did happen, right? So it's very creepy to look back at them in retrospect. I mean, there's another one where I think the guy says, Charlie Kirk is coming to my campus tomorrow. I hope he is like evaporated or something. Something, and then says something like, something big is going to happen tomorrow. I'm paraphrasing. And again, like probably 99% chance it's just social media bluster, but it's really quite creepy in retrospect. And you know, if nothing else, I would say there's probably a lesson here for these posters, assuming that they were just, even if it was all posting in jest, like, you know, maybe don't post in jest about the murder of your political opponents, right? That's maybe a norm that we should have, that you don't do that.
Right. And another piece of evidence I find interesting, because the way I've been thinking about this story since I saw it, Aaron, is, one post seems coincidental, two posts probably also coincidental. Charlie Kirk was so high profile and such a lightning rod for people on the left. And also some people on the, creepy fringes of the far right, that it's, you can easily chalk up as coincidence a post or two. And I suspect you're right. A couple of these posts will just turn out to have been trolling with very, very, very bad luck. But when you have such a handful, it's so worth probing whether or not there's a pattern behind it. And another piece of evidence that stands out to me is we've heard from Kash Patel, and I don't know what else is going to come from this, but that the transitioning lover, from what we know right now, / roommate, seems to have deleted evidence of a message from the suspected shooter, Tyler Robinson, indicating that Robinson did it. And what's interesting to me about that, I think Discord messages have been erased too, but what's interesting to me about that is this taking the step to delete something while we also are hearing that this roommate lover is cooperating. So I wonder, Aaron, how much more we're going to learn, and I know this is speculative and you're a reporter, but how much we're going to learn in the days to come about whether we've seen the tip of the iceberg or whether there is under the surface a much bigger potentially conspiracy, or even just foreknowledge of what was going to happen.
Yeah, like I said, if you made me put probabilities on this, I would say that the overwhelmingly most likely explanation is that the guy was acting alone and maybe was just swimming in these kind of radical waters, but nobody really knew what he was going to do, and then we're horrified, right? I think that's probably the most likely. But yeah, you do have to wonder. I must say, I don't really know what to make of what Kash Patel said, just because the communication from law enforcement, I think, has been
all over the map,
a little inconsistent, to say the least.
Yep.
I think that's the nice way to put it. And so it's like the narrative changes every day, so I'm hesitant to even put too much stock in that. But look, like it does sound, from everything we've also heard from, say, the governor of Utah, that this guy was clearly immersed in online spaces in which that were extremely radical, and where violent rhetoric was quite normal. And to me, in some ways, I think the bigger point here is that you either believe words and ideas have consequences or they don't. And it's very weird for people, I think, especially in the ideas industry and the talking industry, the pundit class, to, especially on the left, to suddenly be like, oh, well, yes, he was, immersed in these radical Discord chats, but that doesn't mean anything. It's like, well, A, you've been lecturing us for years about how, radical groups on the right are responsible for tons and tons of domestic terrorism. So, there's some obvious hypocrisy. And just B, it's like a strange kind of causal, it's this weird, almost like epiphenomenalism, in which all political rhetoric just has no causal impact on the world. And I'm sorry, but if that were true, then none of what we do for a living would matter. Like, if what was said and argued about didn't make a difference at all, why are we doing this? Why are there any pundits? It doesn't make any sense. So I think, if you actually are invested in the idea, professionally invested in the idea that words and ideas matter, you should take seriously the possibility that violent rhetoric can play a causal role in someone's radicalization process and can perhaps exacerbate pre-existing mental health issues and shape behavior. That can happen on both sides, which is why I do think it's a cliche, but, everyone should sort of tone down the rhetoric. This is a good reminder of why. But yeah, just dismissing the ideological component, it, it, it's not just that I think it goes against the evidence we have. I think it's at a deep level, like, incoherent to do that.
Well, as I mentioned up top, to see the full version of this interview and all of our interviews, head on over to undercurrents.tv to join the community. We'll see you back here with more soon.